Facebook answer for their censorship. I've posted what the news media won't show you. Just visit BillJohnsonLeads.com and click News and email that link to your friends.
Paid for by Johnson for Congress.
WOTC HD2 Asheville, your station for news, traffic, and weather in Central Ohio. News Radio 610 WTBN Columbus. WOTC HD2 Asheville, an iHeartRadio station.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. In the final stretch of the 2020 presidential campaign, President Trump rallying today in North Carolina, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Joe Biden in Bristol, Pennsylvania minutes ago.
We have 10 days left. It may come down to Pennsylvania. And I believe in you. I believe in my state.
His surrogates fanning out across other battleground states. Earlier, the president early voting in person in West Palm Beach, Florida, once again casting doubt on mail-in voting.
Everything was perfect, very strict, right by the rules. When you send in your ballot, could never be like that. It could never be secure like that. They've done a fantastic job over here. Great people inside.
Early voting in New York. Brooklyn voter Carl Bevins was standing in lines for hours waiting for his polling place to open.
This will be the first day, but it won't be the last day. A lot of people are going to vote.
The U.S. has just hit an unfortunate record, a daily high of more than 83,000 confirmed coronavirus cases. That beats the previous record set during the summer surge. Now to the west, they're getting hit hard. ABC's Trevor Ault.
In Montana, cases have jumped more than 500% in the past 5 weeks. Sandra Sanderson says she and all 6 of her children became infected.
And I would not want anybody's kids to go through the pain and suffering that we all went through together.
The virus ravaging states like Ohio setting record highs 3 days in a row. In Colorado, the East Troublesome Fire continuing to ravage the state, consuming nearly 200,000 acres of land, displacing tens of thousands of residents.
The fire's so intense, officials have no idea how many homes have been lost.
I really want to make that message, really as a primary message to our community, is that we're not withholding information. We're not trying to delay information getting out there. We don't know.
The good news is that there's a snowstorm in Colorado expected this weekend. Officials hoping
Emily?
it will give them a chance to get back on their feet.
ABC's Irene Shaw, you're listening to ABC News.
Do you
He
check?
hasn't?
Both major presidential
hotline.
campaigns will have events in Ohio today.
What time do
President
you
Trump
call?
will hold a rally at 4 this afternoon in Circleville. That's about 25 miles south of Columbus. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's running mate, has an event in Cleveland said to be an early vote launch mobilization effort. Harris's plane landed late this morning at Cleveland's Burke Lakefront Airport.
Really?
And a report from a pool reporter says the event is at 3:15. Expect some unannounced local stops while Harris is in Cleveland. The full Senate is scheduled to vote next week on the confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett
Still
for
no
the U.S.
JC?
Supreme Court.
No.
Democrat Senator Sherrod Brown says that Majority Leader Mitch
Edward,
McConnell is
yes.
doing his best to push through Barrett
Emily's
through the
asking about
process.
Well, it says it's all about power for Mitch McConnell. It's all about putting another special interest corporate judge on the
Hello,
Supreme
Emily.
Court that will choose corporate interests over workers.
There's
I'm
still not
wonderful.
much in the
Did
way
he
of
call?
details as to how a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy was involved in a crash with a Metro bus earlier this month.
Hamilton County Sheriff Jim Neal giving a somber update Friday evening about a deputy involved in a crash earlier this month.
I'm sad to report that Deputy Corporal
He's on.
Adam McMillan
I was just making sure that you were there, Ed,
succumbed
'cause
to
you're my
his
head of security
injuries.
one day.
That's right.
Corporal Adam McMillan had
I'm
been
here
in a
for you.
coma ever since October
Appreciate
8th when
that.
he collided with a Metro bus on
So did
Beachmont
your
Avenue while on
husband's
duty.
birthday
The sheriff
surprise
says
go well? I
McMillan is a
wasn't here
hero
for
who
it.
will live on in others as an
It
organ
did
donor.
with,
I'm Jack
the help
Crumley.
The Ohio State
of Eric
University
and them, because
says
Eric
the
does do some
positivity
good
rate
things
for
every once in a
COVID-19
while.
remains
Yes,
below
texting
1%
me that he was
on the
like,
campus.
making
The
it go
school's
longer helped a
comprehensive
lot.
monitoring team releasing that
Zach was
report,
not happy
saying
about
that
that.
safety measures meant to contain the virus are working at the OSU. Despite this, people still need
He was surprised.
to be
That's all that
cautious,
matters.
they are saying.
That's right.
And now
I'm Tom
he
Moore.
has concealed carry.
Filling your news feed with the top
Does he have a
trending
special
news
gun?
at the top and bottom of the hour. Columbus's news is on News
right.
Radio 610 WTBN.
He asked me
If
ask
you
that-
need to
he was
hire,
always having
you
me ask
need
Eric,
Indeed.
because I have stuff
Indeed
in.
delivers quality
Well, we got a
candidates
neat
so
one
you
to
can
show today
focus
on
on
the
hiring the
He'll probably
person
wanna
who
come
is a
by.
good fit.
Claim your $75 credit for your first post at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Matt McCoy for Germain Toyota, where they have an incredible fall inventory of new and used cars. 2020 models, new 2021s. It's a great time for you to trade in your old car and trade up to a new Camry, Prius, Highlander, Corolla like I drive, and much more. You can go to GermainToyota.net and check out the whole inventory of new and used cars for yourself and take advantage of some great deals. It's Germain Toyota, 5711 Scarborough Boulevard, or again, visit GermainToyota.net. The right car, the right price, the right way. Germain Toyota.
It's election time, and Wall Street doesn't like uncertainty. What can you do to prepare financially? Should you make changes now or wait until the results are in? Find out more at LegacyRetirementGroup.com.
Hey, Franklin County, we know you want to get out to the polls and vote. We just want to make sure you're safe when you do it. So make sure you wash your hands, wear a mask, and watch your distance when you go in public. Go to myfcph.org/vote to learn more and be the one.
Live from LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Good afternoon. Welcome to On Target. We're broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility. That's located at 999 Bethel Road. I'm your host, Eric, along with my father, Phil, and Big Ed sitting here beside me. Guys, this is it. This is it. The survival of our country as we know it is put in our hands in 10 days.
10 days away.
10 days. You know, we need to inform yourself. Get out there, know the facts, know what each of the candidates stand for, know what the issues are, make an informed decision, not based on emotion, and we should be okay. Today we're going to try to help and educate on what is at stake during this election. We have a packed show, though, so we're going to get right into it. We are the owners of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility and our active law enforcement. But for 1 hour on Saturdays, we put together a group of firearm experts to discuss new products in the market, training tips, and oftentimes political topics surrounding the Second Amendment. Our commitment, though, has always been to bring facts to you about our industry and help our customers and our listeners with safe, responsible ownership of firearms. Today on the show, we are packing it in, guys. So much time. We need so much time that I'm even going to cut into how much time I give you, Grief Ed.
No,
that's how serious
we
it is.
cannot do that, especially
Come
when
on.
he gets here 5 minutes
There you
before
go.
the show.
I was here 10 minutes before the show, and then we had 10 minutes to sit around.
Then I had to give you candy just to quiet you down.
You didn't bring donuts.
Jeez.
So let's see. We're going to start right off with JC giving us some news, and then we're going to welcome at 12:15 Steve Cardigan, to the show. He is a on the Trump Advisory Board. He specializes in safety and security issues, and he is someone that you'll definitely want to hear from. He has a great perspective on the election and what's going on in the country, and he's coming up at 12:15. At 12:30. Pat Manley is going to join us. He's actually going to join us right here in studio. He is asking for your vote to represent Ohio District 24, and he is an extremely strong supporter of law enforcement, and so we're going to get to him here shortly. We talked to him extensively at the Pence rally a couple weeks ago, and just an all-around good guy. Paul, you know he has ties, too, to Watterson and St. Charles.
Really?
So I meant to hit him up on that. I didn't see anything about the sales in there, though.
Well, I'll be darned.
And then at 12:50, our very own Bob Paduchik is going to call in from the Trump rally in Circleville. So we'll hear from him at the end of the show. We'd like to thank our sponsors, TTG Technologies, Jackson Lawn Care and Egress Windows, Blackwing Shooting Center, Rivers Edge Cutlery, CNS Engraving, and, of course, LAPD Training Facility, all who make the show possible each week. Joining me today in the LAPD studio, JC is on the phone. Are you there, JC?
We're definitely here. We're definitely here. And
Well,
like you
you
said, we
sound
could do
tired,
a 2-hour
JC.
news story, so it's just crazy.
JC, we're going to have to do like an off segment all news one day, because when you and I talk in show prep, guys, do you hear that? We do show prep.
Yes, I'm here. I'm prepped.
When we talk, I mean, there's so much news out there right now.
Did you hear the Biden rally this morning?
No, hundreds, thousands of people?
I think there was 3 cars, One of them was a Volkswagen because you could tell
You
by the
cannot count the car he drove in on.
No, I'm not counting that one.
Okay.
And 10 people in the crowd clapping.
Well,
you have to be concerned when you see that many people rallying for Joe Biden.
You do have to be concerned. It's 10 people. It's 20 hands. I tell you. That voice there to my right is Big Ed. Big Ed, I had written into the script right here that I was going to forgive you from some of your past misguidance of not showing up for the show because last week you brought some killer donuts
I want to know.
And then you show up like 30 seconds before we go on air today.
Oh, now it's 30 seconds. Before it was 10. And what's the misguided things that I've done in the past? I'd like you to name
2 weeks
one.
in a row.
Name one.
2 weeks in a row you're not here.
That's one.
It's a weekly.
That was a family-oriented thing that I could not pass
Do you know how
on.
many family things we've missed?
You're right.
You're always together. How could you miss them?
No.
I can't take
all right,
this.
we'll take this off air. My father and co-owner sits to my left. All I got to say, Pawpaw, this week is somebody around this table gave you a gun this week, and I just want to let that be known. So
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
And and all the guns that I've given you through the years that I've never had to spout off in front of 50,000 listeners that I gave you guns.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to get that in
49,000 today because one guy's watching the football game.
there. That is true. If you missed a show, you can always catch the podcast. That's at 610WTVN.com. It's on iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and, of course, on Facebook Live. Great place to watch the show because Big Ed here will talk to you during the show, and you can go back and watch it later on if you missed the whole show, all that good stuff, especially today since there's an Ohio State game going on. I understand if you're not watching it live, but hopefully you go back and watch this after
they'll
the
probably
Ohio.
watch us on Facebook or while they're watching it on TV.
That's right. Yeah, you can, or closed caption like
as long as we don't lose audio.
Yeah, right.
Hey, you didn't see what's going on outside today?
No.
It's cold.
I saw that.
You know what that means?
What's that mean?
That means it's hunting season.
Oh, yes.
So, you're complaining about me missing 2 Saturdays.
Oh, don't be
Get ready, guys, because
Ed, you can hunt during the week and on Sundays. Now, don't give me this stuff.
Sorry, I'm not going to be here. Well, I might be here the Saturday before opening day.
Eric, let's just put out let's put out feelers to fill that spot.
Oh, okay. Well, you can have Mike come back.
So, guys, let's get to the news. JC, you there with us?
We are.
So much. What do you got for us today?
Okay, and it's a reminder, as you said, 10 days to the election, and this is an election that could change the country. But even in Ohio, it's a really important election. The Ohio Supreme Court races, there are two that we want to get reelected that have been staunch supporters of the Second Amendment. Sharon Kennedy and Judy French are both up for reelection. There's only 7 members, and these two are up again. It's a 6-year term, but a lot hangs in the balance. And that is there are a lot of court cases that are rising to the Supreme Court that challenge the preemption laws that Ohio has, which means what that means, folks, is there's cities, counties, you just can't establish your own gun laws. There is a gun law for the state of Ohio, and that's the way it should be, and these are being challenged, and we really need these two folks. As Buckeye Firearms pointed out, a lot of people don't even know who the justices are, so for those of you who are out there, if you're talking to neighbors, talking to family, talking to friends, and they go, who are these folks? Sharon Kennedy and Judy French are names you want to mention. Easy to remember, Kennedy and French. Sharon was a uniformed police officer for a few years, but they're really on our side. We really got to get these folks reelected. Very important for our gun rights. Very important.
And JC, I mean, you're exactly right. That's something, and I know others are probably like me. I really didn't even think about that and how important that is. We're so focused on the Supreme Court of the nation. Sometimes we lose sight of the importance of it right here in our own backyard, and this is extremely important for the gun rights here in Ohio. And that preemption laws, where it mandates that a city or county can't do a law that preempts the state law. It's huge. I mean, that prevents it prevents someone with concealed carry going in and out of jurisdictions where it may or may not be legal. It's a big thing. We cannot allow that to slip away. So, yeah, I definitely remember those names.
We cannot. It was great to get it in, and we just cannot lose it. So, and remember, all the gun bills that are out there right now, at the end of the year, if the things don't get passed, boom, it starts all over again with the next session. So there's some things out there we want to get done right now. So it's really important we have these two judges remain. They're on there right now, but we really need them for another 6 years. So,
one more time, JC, on their names.
Again, Pardon me? Oh, yeah, it was Sharon Kennedy. She was the police officer for a number of years. I've had a couple conversations with her over different times. She's really wonderful. And Judy French. I haven't had the pleasure, but she's a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. Judy French, Sharon Kennedy, vote for them for Supreme Court for Ohio. Yeah.
So, Jace, see the other news story that I think is important to get in, and Ed, Dad, you guys haven't heard this one yet. This is scary. It is this is kind of a warning out there for those of you who might run across this in the internet and not realize what you're doing. JC, tell them about the story that came out of Ammo Land.
All right. Now, this happened in the very draconian state of New Jersey, but it could happen to any of us. A man, Matthew Moran, ordered online some fuel filters. And if you look at the ad, it shows an engine. It shows here's where the filters go. It's right there. It's got Napa auto part numbers. So he looked at them and said the normal price you get, buy two, you get free shipping. And they were, $45. And that was about less than half the price of what they normally run. So he ordered. He ordered actually 2 sets. So when the first set came in, he looked at it. Now, he was a gun owner. He looked at these fuel filters, and when the package arrived, he said they looked more like silencers. So he went off to the Napa auto parts store going, hey, here's these Napa part numbers I've ordered, and what are these things? And the Napa guy just said, he goes, hey, well, these are not actually fuel filters. And he's actually known of a couple of other people that had ordered them. And he told them, and Moran, he said, yeah, you need to get rid of these because they're not fuel filters. So the next day, Moran, by the way, who is the fire chief of the town, went to the police department and said, hey, I've got these. That's the Carlstadt Police Department. And said, I've got these, and they don't appear to be fuel filters. And someone had said that they look more like, suppressors. And he talked to a detective. He surrendered them, saying, hey, here they are. And he told the detective, he goes, I have these. I actually ordered another set. They haven't arrived yet, but I want you to know that. And then after he told the detective about it, he notified the Instagram vendor and said, hey, we don't want these things. He called PayPal, said, I don't want to pay for any of these. He went to his bank, and canceled a second order in payment. And then he took the step and go to the post office and said, I want to refuse delivery of any package from the seller. Was surprised 10 days later, a second package showed up, and he saw where it was from, didn't even open it. He went to back to the police station, parked his car, and he's approaching it. He was surrounded by a cadre of federal and state government agents who stopped him, arrested him, and did a raid on his house. And he's a shooter. So the county prosecutor quickly issued a news release calling this guy, and called him an international arms trafficker who smuggled contraband into the country, took his picture without permission, put it out there, and said that he had numerous firearms and high-capacity magazines, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and put that out as a press release. Well, anything over 10 rounds, but it's not illegal in New Jersey to own any of this. They want to ban them, but it hasn't been done yet. So they put that all out there, all because he ordered these parts and had with a Napa number from China. So I'm just telling folks out there, if you see something like this, you may not want to order those.
Right, and JC, when we went out there and did just a very, very quick Google search, it comes right up. And I tell you, for all intents and purposes, they look like suppressors. I mean, that is one way to get yourself in trouble.
Are they suppressors?
They look like it. Some of them even have baffles in them, but they were labeled as fuel filters. They were cheap, $20-$30. And, a suppressor itself is really not much to it. But, certainly a way to get yourself in big-time trouble.
One of our listeners, Dave Messenger, says that a friend of his bought one, and it's an unfinished suppressor.
Wow, yeah, that's not that's not good. That's going to get you.
With a Napa parts number.
Yeah, right, with the Napa parts number.
Really crazy. So beware.
Well, we're going to jump to break. When we get back on the other side, our good friend Steve Cardian from the Trump campaign is going to be on with us. We're on target. Brought to you, coming live today from LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be right back after the break.
Sure, I'll talk. Looks like we got some several followers on Facebook that are going to probably watch us along with the game. I see that Cindy is a little excited to see that we're on versus the game being on. But yes, we are here, Cindy, and we trump the game. Don't we, Eric? Trump the game? He's not listening. Anyways, we're all here, and we're glad to be here. Happy Halloween to all of you. Love this time of year, only for the deer hunting season. After that, you can keep winter.
How long, Em?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Ed, you got 10 seconds.
10 seconds. What do you want me to say?
You got 4 seconds now, Edward.
Nobody's asking me any questions today. How come? Did you see the new gun we got sitting up front here, folks? You have to come and check this one out. I'm not being there.
Bye, Ed. Your ABC 6 first warning weather for today: decreasing clouds, cool, breezy, high 51. Tonight, partly cloudy, chilly, low of 41. Sunday, mostly cloudy. A stray shower is likely. It's going to be cool, though, high of 55. Currently 47 degrees on your severe weather station. News Radio 610 WTVN.
My computer's freezing. Hold on.
Welcome back to OnTarget. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LAPD studios. Big Ed sits to my right. JC is on the phone with us, and so is my father, Phil. He sits to my left. Guys, that was Freedom. That's his talk about on the ballot.
George Michael.
Yeah, Ed, that's your area, right? Guys,
Yeah.
Speaking of freedom, speaking of people who are standing at the forefront of talking about freedom and what this election is about, our next guest has had a career and really a lifetime of service in the country, serving as a police officer, a motorcycle officer, a chief investigator for New York City Department of Investigations, U.S. Marshal contractor, a master trainer in self-defense, and most recently a contributor to CNN and Fox News. And he also serves as the Inside Edition safety and law enforcement consultant and is now serving on the 2020 President Trump Advisory Board. We welcome to the show Steve Cardian. Sorry about that. To the show. How are you, Steve?
Good, Eric. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I couldn't even read my own notes, and we just talked.
That's pretty bad.
How are you doing? How are things over there?
Doing well, doing well. You know, it's a balmy day in New York. It's it's been kind of lousy here, but doing good, man. Doing real well.
That's good. You know, when I talked to, I was talking to some of the representatives from the Trump campaign this week, and I mentioned that we need to keep on the forefront of showing what the polar differences are between President Trump and Joe Biden on this ticket in regards to law and order. And they immediately said, hey, you need to have Steve on with you. That is his forte. That is what he talks about all the time. And he is really, at the forefront of this because of all your experience and over the years. And you were, of course, chosen to be on the President's Advisory Board. Tell us a little bit about what is the big difference in this election? What are the glaring differences between Biden and Trump when it comes to law and order?
When it comes to law and order, Trump obviously is the law and order president, where Biden has taken a knee to crime and crime punishment, if you will. So the president has supported us. When Obama and Biden were in office for all those years, we didn't have this kind of support. Matter of fact, I know it because I was on national media talking about all the cases in which he came out. And it started all the way back to 2009 with Beergate, if you remember that, Professor Henry Louis Gates and Sergeant Crowley, where Obama came out and prematurely chided the police department. And ever since then, he did it over and over, and other Democratic politicians picked up on it. And they began doing the same thing. So if the president could do it, other lower-level mayors and county executives could come out and chastise local law enforcement without knowing the facts. And today, we still see that happening, mainly from the Democrats.
Right, and you and I talked beforehand. It is unprecedented the number of law enforcement organizations that have come out this year in support of President Trump or in the Republican side. It's almost to a point now where you can't be in law enforcement and not support President Trump. I mean, it is so cut and dry what he is for versus VP Biden. And I mean, you're sure fully aware of all the support. I mean, talk for a second about the FOPs and all the different organizations across the country who've come out now and endorsed President Trump.
Yeah, take for example one of the most recent. There's a ton of them that have come through, but the NALP, the National Association of Police Organizations, they were supported by Biden and Obama in 2008 and 12, and 2016 they sat out. There's well over, I think it's 130,000 members, and they came out in wholehearted support of the president this time. The International Union of Police came out a year ago, unheard of, to come out and endorse a president a year before they even had an opponent. NYPD, never in the history of the NYPD has the NYPD PBA, who has 40,000 members, come out and endorse the presidential candidate. And it goes on and on and on, from the Florida Sheriff's Association, the Border Patrol, the National Troopers Coalition, and there's just too many to list.
And for us, at the end of the day, you take a step back and you have to take them at their word, at their face value for what they say. And I don't know, did you catch by chance VP Biden's his town hall? I think it was a week and a half or so ago now, and he came out in that and said, we need to teach our law enforcement to de-escalate. And I tell you, I jumped out of my chair and I said some things I usually don't say, because I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, you are so far out of touch with the training that we continually to go through. And I know this is a hot button for you too, because of all the training you do, Steve. And then he goes on to say, we the first line of defense can't be shoot to kill, or we need to shoot him in the knee. And thinking he is showing how far out of touch they are. And how do you even begin then to take anything he says, as being fact when you hear that?
Yeah, those of us that are in law enforcement, it's clear. He knows as much about law enforcement and law and order as I do about rocket science, which is nothing. So he brings to the table nothing in terms, and you're going to see what's happened is he and the Democrats have supported what's going on in the riots, and they've even encouraged, like, for example, Kamala Harris came out, riots aren't going to stop. And they shouldn't. Pelosi, saying get into the faces of the Republicans, they're the enemy of the state, and so on and so forth. So they've emboldened and empowered that extreme leftist that they refuse to control.
So how do we? You're on the President's Advisory Board. How do you get the message out? How do you try to educate people who otherwise are just taking all of this at face value when they hear the VP talk about that? They know nothing else. How do we get the message out? How do we show them that that's not the case and not the facts?
Well, exactly what we're doing. I spoke at a Back the Blue rally 2 weeks ago, and there was hundreds of people there and able to get the message across, doing shows like yours, Fox News, a variety of the other conservative TV shows. They're great at getting the message out. And, we got to continue to do it, because the general public, they don't know anything about Black Lives Matter. They don't know anything about Antifa. They don't know anything about what Joe Biden might do to this country if he were to be elected.
How do you, having been able to work closely with the president, how committed is he to law and order? For me and for us sitting around this table, that is the basis of everything. We don't have anything if we don't maintain security in law and order in our streets. And it's really at stake right now. We look at our own community right here in Columbus, and it's crazy. You hear the politicians talking about de-escalating, but yet they take all the tools away to de-escalate. How important is this to the president?
It's very important. The president wholeheartedly supports us. I remember last year I was on with Laura Trump in Trump Towers at Studio 45 talking about when the Sheriff's Association went to the White House and gave him, an award. And the love in the room and the love outside when they were taking the photographs, it was evident. They adore the president because he's got our backs. And we haven't had that for many, many, many years. This is a good time for law enforcement. If we could only get rid of some of the mayors in Portland, in Seattle, New York City, life would be good.
Columbus.
And right here in Columbus, Steve. I mean, we're
yeah.
fighting it right here. I mean, it's just the stuff that's coming out of that administration here locally is just horrible. It's horrible, and it's uneducated, you know. Guys, do you have any questions here?
I don't have any questions other than I'd like to say again, how come these mayors, these Democratic mayors that are allowing this to happen in these cities are allowed to stay in office because they are not upholding the oath of office? They're allowing violence to continue, destruction to continue, and people getting killed or hurt.
Right.
Yeah, it's most of these. Take, for example, in New York State, we have a Democratic governor, Cuomo, who has passed the no bail reform. So we've got a revolving door now, and law enforcement and prosecutors are hampered. We've got to turn over evidence for discovery within, it's like 3 days or something. That may not be the number, but it's very small. And the Democratic governors in all the states that I just mentioned, in the cities, they are being protected by the mayors that shouldn't be in office are being protected by their Democratic governors. And, you know, if they had, during the riots, President Trump allowed to send in the National Guard, it would have taken an hour to begin to quell all the violence that we saw and the millions and billions of dollars of damage.
Right.
But not just the mayors. What about the governors? They're not upholding their oath either.
No, they're not. And it seems that the Democrats all have something in common, and it's a lack of common sense. It seems they're devoid of it. They just make decisions that are not in the best interest or the safety of our gun owners and our citizens.
Right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for jumping on with us today. And if you're ever in this area, certainly stop by and see us, sit in with us for a day. We'd love to do that.
I'll hang on to your contact info for sure.
All right.
Take care.
That's
All right, guys.
Steve Cardian. He is one of the advisors to the Trump campaign. Great guy. He's been a lifetime of service to our communities. When we come back from the break, speaking of service, we're going to have on with us our very own Pat Manley from right here in Columbus. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be right back after the break.
All right. So am I understanding everybody on Facebook can hear us okay? And Matt, I would have asked him that, but you didn't get your question in a little bit, you got it in a little bit too late. But we got another politician coming on. I'm sure we can get some questions into him. Facebook freeze. Man, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why we can't get this darn Facebook thing to work out.
It's going now, isn't it?
Yeah, we got Facebook freeze according to what I'm seeing here.
No, it shows good on my side.
Is it still frozen up, Cindy? Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
You can talk now.
It says it's.
You can hear me now? Yeah, I can hear myself.
They're saying it's frozen yet.
It's showing good on our side. Maybe that's just you.
No, they're telling me.
Be nice.
God, thank you, Emily. I think I'm going to have to take off more time because I'm so stressed out. I'm so stressed when I come in here.
It's nothing that a donut
Thank
won't help
you, Cindy.
with.
It's good now, they said. I just can't deal with Phil anymore.
I'm sorry, Pat, you had to come into this environment.
That's right. I do a lot of mediating in my job.
Do you really?
Well, we need you here then. We need you here. I need you on my side.
He is on your side.
I know.
If he was on my side, he'd be here.
Well, OSU's winning 13-7, looks like.
That's what they're saying.
I bet those cardboard fans are going crazy.
Oh, they are shaking. Hey, that's what we need. We need a cardboard fan to take the place of Ed.
There you go. That way, when I go hunting, you guys can still
We'd get just about as much out of it.
There you go.
You'd need several of them, though. You need Happy Ed, you need
That's
Mad
true.
version.
Yeah. Turn them around.
Well, if you have a guest on, he can switch them out.
Yeah.
When you go hunting, bring a year's supply
Guys have 1 minute.
of clothing. You may as well just stay out there.
Okay, I can do that.
Are you talking to the fans? You talking to Paul?
I'm talking to everybody. The fans are sticking up for me, by the way.
Cindy, though, Matt, you can't just put Cindy and say all
okay,
the
everybody
fans.
out there on Facebook, who wants me to stay here and have these guys leave me alone? Just chime in on Facebook so Eric and Phil can see. Dan Morse, be nice to Ed. See, that's not just Cindy. Thank you, Dan.
All right,
No, I don't have a brother named Dan.
I'm turning you off, Edward.
Whatever.
Goodbye.
Thank God.
That's the man by Paul. See? That'll teach you to pick on me. Dave's got my back.
Live from LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Welcome back to On Target. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LAPD studios. My father, co-owner Phil, he sits to my left. Big Ed sits to my right.
That's right, and not for long if you keep it up.
JC is on the phone. You still there, JC?
Yes, we are.
Also to my right, if you're watching on Facebook, a great place to watch is someone who just jumped on with us during the break and who has increased the intellect around the table. That doesn't take much. Though.
At least on that side of the table.
Yeah. Yep. We're joined today now. Our next guest is running for representative of Ohio District 24, right here in Central Ohio. So this is right here, our own backyard, guys. He is architect by trade, has close ties with both Watterson and St. Charles. Is that right?
That's right.
Paul, sorry.
What about the sales?
Well, only for on the field.
Yeah.
And if it's football, if it's football, we lost a lot of games. If it's baseball, we won a lot.
Okay.
And he's from, actually, you grew up in Blair, right?
Yeah, Shadyside in Bel Air, yeah, which is right in that area. Or you pronounced it right, Blair.
Yeah.
Even though it's spelled it's spelled Bel Air, but everybody pronounces it Blair.
We had relatives there, and my wife's from the Valley.
My folks were from that area.
Yeah, and my wife's from the Valley, so
I didn't know your wife was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yep. So we got a little ties there.
Yeah.
You've been a small business owner for years.
Right.
So you talked to that. Professor at Columbus State. But you know what, Pat, when what really struck me and what really hit it off, I think, when talking to you at the Pence rally was your commitment to law and order and the safety and security of the citizens as a bedrock to the community. And that's something that we just aren't seeing right here in Columbus. So we welcome you here, and we need to get the message out for people to pull the lever for you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Eric, for having me here today. I really appreciate getting a few minutes to talk to everybody. But, it's really, I would have never guessed. I've lived in Columbus for over 40 years since I came to Ohio State. I would have never imagined that we would see the things that we saw in downtown Columbus we saw this year. And if you look at it, there was a progression. It started off with protests. Those converted to riots. Those converted to riots that had looting in it. Then it went to the point where there were marches and demonstrations in the suburbs and a certain amount of vandalism in Upper Arlington, Hilliard, for example, which are in my district in Worthington. Right. And as you know, the Columbus police officers were told to stand down downtown. And then we also had damage to the State House because the Highway Patrol were not able to protect the property under those conditions. And then at the end result, what do we see? We have on the ballot coming up in less than 2 weeks, we have a ballot initiative to create a civilian review board. And how many people in any kind of a job would want somebody from the outside that knows nothing about their line of work to come in and oversee what they do? And
that's just it. It's not to say, because all of us here are in law enforcement or have been, it's not to say that we don't think we should be, have oversight or that we can't do better. But the way this is being proposed, a civilian review board made up of activists and people people from the community who don't have knowledge in this. My wife and I were talking last night about it. When she was in the medical profession for a number of years, and you had medical review boards made up of medical professionals to look and see if what occurred, was the right thing or the right processes in place. That is not what this is. I mean, these aren't made up of past chief of police or, people who are in the know. It's made up of literally activists who've had years of talking out against law enforcement, and now they're getting their chance to make a difference. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the real purpose, in my opinion, of the Civilian Review Board is not to review the police or to see, to act in any oversight capacity. What they are is they're going to be a tool for the politicians, where the politicians can say, they can point to a Civilian Review Board that's going to be reactionary and is going to almost always, take a view that's in opposition to law enforcement and the rest of the community and say, hey, it wasn't my decision. The Civilian Review Board did this, so we're just following their recommendations.
Right. And it's crazy. We had Jim Scanlon on last week, who's a very well-respected former sergeant with Columbus Police. Very well-respected, very educated on these matters. And he says, you know what? He says, there is no deadly force encounter that's pretty. There's nothing that you're going to review back and say, oh, that looked good. It's always ugly. And this review board is going to be based on emotion. It's not going to be based on whether that was in policy or what or the facts. It's going to be emotion-based, strictly on what it appeared to be. And
shock value.
Yeah, you can't do that, and especially in this line of work where it's an instantaneous decision, life and death decision. This is, and you're going to sit back and judge, what that officer was feeling at that time and whether he or she felt like his or her life was in danger.
No, I was just thinking, even the simplest of calls or a traffic stop can turn into something deadly. Mm-hmm. And, they talk about putting these, what do they call them, public safety or...
Oh, the counselors and
the counselors. So, so is the counselor going to be able to help the officer when it turns deadly, or are they going to talk the guy down or the lady?
And we've heard some cities say that when they've put those professional psychiatrists or whoever it may be out with the officers. Some of the officers now are concerned. Now they have someone else to protect here. Now they got someone else they have to watch for.
Right.
Sure, it complicates their job.
It complicates it, oftentimes. And I'm sure there's cases where that professional can help with the circumstance. But it is so, the situations are evolving so quick, and sometimes, and you don't have that time to, to sit there and sit back.
Yeah, you have to react.
Right, and what I think is going to make it worse is this movement towards defunding the police. As you said, I'm running in House District 24, northern part of Clintonville where I live, Upper Arlington, Hilliard, Galloway, Darby-Dale, Harrisburg, pretty much the west side of Franklin County. And I've got an opponent, Allison Rousseau, who's the current representative. She actually signed a pledge with a little bit over 1,000. I think there's 1,011 we counted. Individuals who signed a pledge to defund the police. So they basically have a consortium of politicians whose goal is to strangle the police financially and to shift resources in a way that's going to cause more harm. And if you think about it, how this ties in with some of the issues we were just talking about, is that there's never enough funding anyway, to have properly. I can remember in Columbus when we used to have 2 officers in a patrol car, and then that got cut primarily because of budgets. There wasn't enough money to do it. So you have police officers that are not only out in the neighborhoods and out exposed, but they don't have somebody to back them up. And or they have to wait. If they have a call, somebody may be a few blocks away or a few miles away. And then you further take the money away. And, when I'm out campaigning, I've talked to over 6,000 people at least. I think it's a little bit higher than that over recent months where I've talked to them. And we have, you run into people like ourselves that are gun owners. I've run into law enforcement officers. And interestingly enough, I've run into a lot of people that are not gun owners or have never been gun owners, and many of them have been opposed to guns that have bought handguns recently for protection at home. And I think that's really interesting. But what they tell me is that, they'll say, I may vote for so-and-so or I may vote this way on my ballot, but I hear this all the time. I didn't sign up for defunding the police, and right away they'll say, I've got a home, I've got children, I've got a family. When the defunding of the part, tied in with the police defunding, as we all know, is they want to pull the resource officers out of the school,
right?
Which, in my view, my layman's view, provides two services. They're relationship officers, where they can work with a lot of the kids that might be borderline, that might be, come from troubled homes, that might be at risk kind of students. And then the second thing is you have someone who is actually armed on the school grounds that can respond quickly and immediately. And to take them out of there, I mean, it's insane.
It is. I think you said, Eric, that the school board says that having the police officers' presence traumatizes the
Worthington
children.
School Board said that.
Yeah.
I mean, traumatizes them.
And I think that's crazy. I live right next to Whetstone High School. And years ago when I moved there, the school had a lot of trouble. And they did something really smart. They hired a woman to be the school principal, and she was a veteran, military veteran, very hardcore. She cleaned up that school in a month with all the problems that we had.
Wow.
And then when there were problems, she reacted. But what's happened, I mean, that was 25, 30 years ago when she came in. But what's happened now, the school administrators don't have that kind of authority.
Right.
They'll get in trouble if they act on their own outside the guidelines. Well, so they don't have the control.
They tied their hands from
Yeah.
doing any discipline, just like they're trying to tie the hands of law enforcement now.
And you know what, Pat? We're talking to Pat Manley, running for Ohio Representative or in District 24, right?
District 24, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I look at when I was looking at Allison Russo's, her endorsements, there's not one law enforcement endorsement in there. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Yeah,
there's
not.
If law enforcement isn't behind you in this environment, then that speaks to what you're for. And
yeah, exactly.
We also pulled out her gun violence prevention, and it's the same rhetoric that you always see. And it's stuff that recommended that's not going to have any change on what we're seeing daily now in our streets right here.
Right.
We're prohibiting the sale of military-style automatic weapons. What the heck is that? And I guarantee you that if you go out there and look at the murders in Columbus recently, I'm not sure I heard of any that have been committed by a rifle. But that's what she wants to ban, and so that should fix it.
And as if any of that's going to make a difference. Just like a few nights ago, we had a murder of a White Castle a manager, a young woman who works very hard, and she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, when this guy went crazy. Then he went over to the Speedway across the street, but he ran out of ammunition. And it would have even been worse had he had he been more prepared and I don't know that they really even know what the motivation is. But a friend of mine happened to be right there minutes after this, or as it ended. But you look at the schools, you look at all those kind of things, and especially in the schools. I mean, we're talking about our children. We're talking about people that are defenseless. And when I see things like that, and like you said with the endorsements, I've been endorsed by the FOP, the police officers. I've also been endorsed by the firefighters, and which is rather unique to be endorsed by both of those groups. Right. But again, when they're trying to cut off the police, other first responders, basically making everybody defenseless and dependent, either dependent on no one or dependent upon themselves. I mean, think of the dangers. I mean, that's only going to lead to one direction. It's going to lead to anarchy, crime, more crime.
In which we're seeing.
And we are seeing that already.
Yeah.
And the criminals, as you know, you're all law enforcement officers. Criminals are very bold. When they have a little bit of success, they're more bold and more bold and more bold. And right now, I think we're right at the tipping point where we may see that if the Civilian Review Board gets passed, if they're successful with the defunding, we're in a situation where we have no choice but to maybe self-arm as neighborhood groups, as individuals. And I don't think anybody really wants to do that.
Right.
That's not the way we're set up as a society, but there may be no choice. And one of the things a lot of people don't look at as closely in my district, but people in my district are very well aware, they're right next to the city of Columbus. We had the murder that was on OSU's campus a few weeks ago. That happened within 3 miles. I mean, literally within a 5-minute drive of my district where my constituents are. So, yes, they're in the suburbs, but anything that happens in Columbus affects all the surrounding suburbs. There's no way to get around that.
And we've seen firsthand here at the store the gun sales go through the roof. Now, good for everyone. Also through the roof is concealed carry classes and all the training. But the amount of firearms that have been sold to people who come in. I just had an email yesterday. A guy said, hey, look, I'm not a gun person at all. Really don't believe in guns, but I am worried for myself and my family, and so I need to set up a time to come in to purchase a firearm and then train on it. And we've seen that time and time again. JC, you've been quiet down there. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I really appreciate the fact that he's running. I really want him to be elected. But I'll tell you, this kangaroo court, and that's what it is. This review committee is simply a kangaroo court set up by Ginther. He tried to get this law firm, to review the police activities in the riots, got $550,000 of our taxpayer money, and found out that they weren't violating anything. So now he wants to set up this. He's chosen anti-gun activists. I mean, really crazy people. The attorney who defended the man who killed 2 police officers. But this is just a sham. If the mayor can't get it through the one way, he's going to try to set it up to discredit the police and defund the police. And then once they take, if he gets his way and gets preemption and tries to fight that bill, where they can keep us from having firearms to defend, it's just going to be chaos. And I just don't understand how people can support any of this. But that's the way it is. So,
I know.
My hat's off to Pat, and we're kind of neighbors. I guess I can see a Whetstone from where I live, so we're pretty close together there. Yeah. If I stand on my tiptoes and look over the fence on the freeway, we're right there.
Hey, if you see John looking in your fence.
Hey, John, that's if you lived here. I mean, come on.
We're here,
yeah, if you were here.
My goodness.
Come on.
I'll be back in the night, so we'll be right there.
John,
so,
we've talked about you standing on your tiptoes looking over the fence.
Yeah.
That's called something else, John, back in my days. That's called something else when you're looking over a fence.
Hey, we're going to jump to a quick break here. Pat, you want to stay with us here for the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, when we come back from the break, we're going to get to our good buddy Bob Paduchik, who is on the street or on the field there with the Trump campaign. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LEPD Firearms Range. We'll be right back after the break.
All right.
You want some coffee? No, I'm good. Thank you.
Phil, we got people saying that you're looking a little stressed out today.
Well, I'm stressed.
And I told them it's because you didn't get your donut. CPD traumatizes the school gangbangers.
Maybe.
Yep.
You know, it's funny, we were talking on the phone briefly yesterday about the Second Amendment issue.
What's the score of the game, somebody?
You know, I thought I was thinking about that when I went home last night, so I was starting to look a few things up just to kind of see what people are talking about. And there's really almost no discussion.
Gun club without ammo. Thanks, Phil.
And that's his whole plan. Yeah, you know, but it's not being talked about, and it's craziness.
And which means that to me, that's going to be a post-election.
30 seconds.
Hey, what's the score, Emily? Do you know?
No, I don't care about football.
Oh, okay.
Baseball is the only sport that matters.
Oh, okay.
Edward, I'm turning you off.
All right. 14-7. Northwestern.
I can make up the score.
14-7.
Your ABC6 first warning weather for today: decreasing clouds, cool, breezy, high 51. Tonight, partly cloudy, chilly, low of 41. For Sunday, mostly cloudy, stray showers, cool, high of 55. It is currently 47 degrees on your severe weather station. News Radio 610 WTVN.
News Radio 610 WTVN.
If everybody had an ocean across the USA, then everybody'd be served like California. You see them wearing their baggies, Warachi sandals too.
You know, can you imagine seeing Ed in a wetsuit on the surfboard?
No, no one can. And
what do you guys?
No one would want to.
welcome back to OnTarget. I'm your host, Eric joined today in the LEPD studios with my father, co-owner Phil.
They would have
to
to sew 2 wetsuits together, I think, to fit them.
He sits to my left. Thank goodness the clarity on Facebook is not that good because you would see banana all over his face at this point.
I don't have banana all over my face.
Sitting to my right is Big Ed. JC's on the phone. We have our good friend Pat Manley sitting here to our right. And then I think, is Bob Paduchik on the line?
Yes, Eric, I am. Great to be with you today.
Good hearing from you. I hear you were on the front lines. You were ready for the big guy to come to town. Oh, wait a second.
Absolutely. The good people of Circleville, they are not getting their pumpkin show this year, but they are getting their president. And I'm down here at the fairgrounds in Pickaway County, and I tell you, it is going to be a huge crowd. So if any of your listeners are on their way down here, they better hurry because the line is unbelievable to get into this place.
And we heard Ed talked earlier in the show that I guess VP Biden had a big rally today. How many cars were there, Ed?
There was 3 cars and 10 people.
Yeah, have you beat that already?
Gosh.
Have you?
Can you believe that?
I think we have beat that rather easily, but I think that may be a new record for the vice president.
And they were counting one of his cars, I think, in that.
Yeah, it doesn't count if it's your motorcade.
Yeah, okay. So what's the pulse there? I mean, are you seeing a lot of people, Bob?
Oh, people are fired up. What we're seeing across the whole entire state and what we're seeing in a lot of battleground states is the amount of enthusiasm for this president is much higher than it was even in 2016. It's incredible. I mean, the president is really on a high going into these last 10 days before the election.
Are you? Dad wants to know: are you going to be able to get him to jump on and say hi here in the next minute or two, or no?
Bob, Bob.
No, he's in.
For years I've been asking you to have the president call in and say hi, and nothing's happened yet.
Well, I disappoint a lot of people. I get my wife on the program to start, and then my parents, and all the way down the line.
I'll be darned. Okay.
You know what, Bob? It's funny because I keep calling him the big guy, but I got to catch myself because now apparently the big guy references Biden now in his emails.
Biden. Yeah.
So I got to watch my use of the big guy because I think I'm talking about the wrong person now.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing how little coverage this is getting by a lot of people in the press. You would think that they would just kind of by accident at least be curious about what's going on here, and it's just shocking that this is the way things are today.
I know, and we were talking to Pat here too. I mean, the gun topic on these debates has been non-existent, and we did a whole show last week on Biden's plan to end gun violence. You got to go out there and read it for yourself. The easiest way to get to it is to go to Joe Biden's website. Easiest way to get to that, www.antifa.com. Goes right to his website, and then you can click on his plan for gun violence. So, I mean, read it for yourself.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that the press and other people have not talked about, and that is the foreign policy success that this president has had. Everything else that has gone on with this administration, any kind of a good news story at all seems to be forgotten when it comes to the mainstream media.
It is. Hey, thank you so much, Bob, for calling in. Stop by next week. We'll catch up and tell the president we said hey. We also want to thank Steve Cardian for calling in. And, of course, Pat Manley standing right here. You got to vote for him. You got to vote for the Supreme Court justices to get in place and vote no on issue 2. We'll be back next week with the last show before the election.
Yep. And let's be careful out there.
Yes.
Well, for once you didn't upend me.
I led you on that good.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for showing up.
Hold on one second.
And as much as we get on Ed and everything, I mean, we're really professionals here. Right, Ed? Thought we were professionals. Just as long as I keep on feeding you candy, buddy, we're fine.
Why do we got to eat during the 1 hour show?
Because, Eric,
Hey, I hear it. I hear you eating. I could hear you. Emily, could you hear him?
Hey, I gave you
Who?
Ed and Dad eating throughout the show?
No, actually, I couldn't.
Oh, you got to say you did.
I don't lie very well.
I'll give you a box of ammo.
Oh my gosh, don't say that. No, don't. Oh my gosh, Zach's going to kill me.
That's
I
okay.
can't
You
lie.
turned it down. Can you hang on 1 sec before commercials? Okay, hold on 1 sec. Oh, I know. Horrible. Yeah. Well, really? I know. We're so fortunate that we had it. I mean, we sold as many guns in the first 7 months of this year as we did all of last year. We had days where we sell 10 guns a day with drilled. We had days where we were selling 150 guns a day. Unbelievable. Here, let me do this commercial quick. You ready, Em?
Yep, ready when you are.
Okay, here we go. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final argument on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you and future use. Oh, let me try that again. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final arguments on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you and future use. Jeezy, Pete, who wrote this? This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final arguments on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you for future years. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final arguments on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you in future years. Tune in Saturday at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final arguments on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you in future years. Tune in tomorrow at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road. Jeezy, Pete. Too many distractions here, Em. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we lay out the final arguments on how to vote if law and order and the Second Amendment rights are important to you for future years.